Welcome to Me Time with Mind Escape Vibe. I am so excited for my guest today, Cathy. Oh my gosh, a great blogger. Just we're gonna have a great conversation, and I'm just super excited. I just want to dive right in. Cathy, thanks for coming on.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. I appreciate that.
Yes. Oh, thank you so much for coming on. I can't wait to dive in and talk about your blog because I do believe that the topic that we're going to discuss today, which we talk about struggling with depression and ways to deal with that,
Mhm.
will help so many people.
I
And
hope so.
I, and it's we don't I don't want it to be a taboo subject. We should be
Mhm.
talking about it and
Mhm.
just trying to do something about it.
Yep.
It's just loving for yourself. So, but I like to start the show with asking our guests about a mental victory vibe celebration. And that's
Okay.
something that you've done for yourself to pour into your own cup, maybe today or in the last week or so. So,
Mhm.
what have you done for yourself lately?
Oh, so when I heard about when you wrote this sent this question to me, I was thinking about something that I do on a regular basis, not necessarily something that I've done for myself once.
Well, the regular basis works for me.
Okay, okay. So for me, what I've been doing is writing. Like I wake up really early in the morning, by about 5:30 or so, to get straight into my writing.
Mhm.
Um, Writing is like, I don't know, it just soothes my soul. I don't know if that's so cliche, but it's that's just what it does for me. And but before I get into my writing, I have to do at least a 10 to 15-minute meditation. And sometimes I have to admit, sometimes I just want to get through the meditation so I can get to my writing. So both of those working in combination is what I do for myself. That's my me time. I wake up super early. I meditate for about 10 to 15 minutes about anything that is going on in my life. I do meditations about writing. I meditate about feeling self worth. I meditate about self healing, anything that I'm going through at the moment, and then I dive right into my writing, and then I'm just like in my own world while I write. So that's what I do for myself.
It's a it's like you get transfixed, right? Like you're in a trance.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Sometimes I don't even know how the words come to me.
yeah.
I love it. I love it. Love it.
I- First of all, I know that we're recording this and folks won't see the video, but I just want to let you know, girl, that your hair is giving me life this
Oh, thank
morning.
you.
Okay. I was
Thank you.
like, oh, I should have probably did a little. That looks good. I'm loving it.
Oh, thank you so much. I love this style. Thank you.
So, what would you say your personal empowerment theme song is?
Okay, so I thought a lot about this, and I know during our pre-conversation, I told you that a very long time ago it used to be "I Will Survive" by Gloria Gaynor, but
Mhm.
as I thought more and more about it, I was thinking that it's still my theme song. So let me explain just briefly. When I was younger, my very first boyfriend was a manipulative guy. He wasn't very nice. He kept me like on a string and played with my emotions and my insecurities in order for me to stay with him. And it wasn't until I didn't realize what he was doing. Like I broke up with him and I realized, you know how when you break up with somebody, you go through every single aspect of the relationship. And I realized
Mhm.
what he was doing and how he had done it. And it was a time when I was working at a catering hall that they always played "I Will Survive" as, the dance music. Everybody loved dancing to that. And then the more I listened to the words, the more I was like, oh my gosh, this is me. I will survive. I don't need him in my life, right? But then when I started thinking about it these days, that situation I've gotten over, but I'm thinking about it in terms of depression. I will survive. And I even thought of certain lines like, as long as I know how to love, I know I'll stay alive. As long as I know how to love myself, I'll stay alive. It doesn't have to do with any man at this point, right? I spent so many nights feeling sorry for myself. I did, nights and days. And then the last line that I wrote down was, now I'm saving all my love for someone who's loving me, which is me. I'm loving me.
Mm.
So it still happens to be my theme song, just in a different perspective.
It's like it just evolved with you.
Yes, yes. Love that
And
song.
that's that like okay. So I asked about the personal empowerment theme song for multiple reasons. One is a lot of the listeners, they're like, oh, let me go check that out. I
Mhm.
go check out a lot of them too. But the lyrics and what it does for you and how it can grow with you.
Yes.
That is fantastic. I'm
I love
loving it.
it. I love it. And it speaks so much power about that song that was written when back in the 60s,
That
70s,
60s or the
that still
70s.
resonates
Mm-hmm.
with people today.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm telling you. I'm telling you. Look,
Yeah.
the personal empowerment theme song is that song
Yeah.
that just gets you through so you don't wallow in the
Yeah.
self-pity. You don't wallow in the
Exactly.
situation. You don't
Exactly.
overthink it. You put that song on to gain your power back. Put your
Yes.
armor back on.
Yes, exactly. We're such powerful people in terms of our emotions, and we just have to like look inside of ourselves for our strength. Easier said than done, but it
Yeah.
can be done.
Yeah, it is easier said than done, and I imagine that someone listening to the podcast has said that. That's easier said than done.
Yes.
I just want you to know, sis, um, bruh, if you're listening, whoever it is, whether you're male or female, we
Yeah.
know it's easier said than done.
Yeah.
But we want to just give you the hope to just
Yeah.
try.
It's so true.
Mm,
So true.
have me fired up already. When did you start first? When did you first start experiencing depression?
So, I've thought a lot about this. I have a blog, Cathy's Cross, a Depressive Positive Perspective, and I started that about a little bit less than 2 years ago, and that was when I really started diving deep and really reflecting on my, I guess you could say, relationship with depression,
Mhm.
and I've been in therapy for many years as well, and I'm always reflecting on what I'm going through. And I realized that when I first started experiencing depression was when I was around 11, 12 years old,
Wow.
and I went right back to why I started experiencing depression. And like I feel like I'm about to cry right now. Um, it was at a time when I didn't really understand myself or understand people or how people can be. I was playing, there was a group of us playing hide and seek or manhunt, hide and seek. I was at my cousin's house, and it was nighttime, and we had made friends with the girl who lived across the street. She had her friends over, guys and girls. We decided to play hide and seek. So I went into my cousin's backyard, which was like a huge yard and it's full of grass, and there were bushes in the corner. And so when I went there, there was one of the guys that was there. He was like, "Oh, come hide with me," and I was like, "Okay." And so we went and hid in the bushes, and he was a little bit more handsy than I expected him to be. So he started holding me down there, and at first I didn't even think about it because my 12-year-old brain was so naive, and I was just like, okay. And then so I kind of lifted his hand up and I said, um, just hold me on my waist around here. And I was still on the lookout. I was still very naive, very like, doo doo doo,
Mhm.
we're just playing a game, whatever. And then he put his hand down there again, and then he said, and I still didn't think anything of it until he said, "Don't worry, I won't tell nobody." I will never forget those words. And I removed his hands from me. I ran inside the house, and my cousins were there, older cousins were there, aunts and uncles talking, whatever. And I was just like, do I say what just happened? And I couldn't bring myself to. So I ran back out, and one of the girls who we made friends with was out there. I told her, I said, I don't want to play anymore. And she's like, why? And I don't know. For some reason, I felt more comfortable telling her than the adults. But I
Mhm.
told her everything that happened. And she was just like, oh boy. She didn't make any big thing of it. She was like, oh boy, I bet you that was so and so, whatever his name was. And everybody
Well, the
came.
fact that she knew who it was, though.
Mm, everybody came out, and I saw him climbing the fence from where we were. So I knew it was him. And I said, that's him right there. And I ran towards him and I started punching him everywhere. Don't you ever do that to me again, Bob. And I was just going on and on. And everybody was like taken aback. people kind of laughing, didn't know what was happening. And because I reacted that way, I guess he and his friends decided to take off. And um, I don't really remember what transpired after that, but I was really proud of myself that I did stand up for myself, and I, hurt him, and I told him, I let him know that I wasn't happy with it. But I have to tell you, even though I did that in front of everybody and people were kind of laughing about it, people were like, what's going on? Even though I did that and I was proud of myself for punching him out, that night, I remember when the self shame and the self hate started.
Mm-hmm.
I hated myself. I couldn't believe that I had allowed something like this to happen.
Mm.
Then it was just like a downward spiral. I didn't like myself. I hated myself. I was always crying for no reason. Even my sixth grade teacher saw me crying one day and didn't say anything. Instead, I remember her standing at the doorway um, with another teacher, and then she pointed at me, and just like, why she? And that was while I was crying. She never asked me, Cathy, what's going on? What's wrong? And I didn't have the heart to talk about it because I was so ashamed. I was so ashamed. I had a pen pal, well, not really a pen pal, one of my best friends from grade school who moved, but we kept in touch by writing letters to each other. And I remember writing to her, telling her what happened, and I don't remember exactly what I wrote back, but I remember her response. She was like, Cathy, I've never heard you talk about yourself in such a horrible way before.
Mm.
And I remember that that's when it started. So being that I never really talked about it again, it stayed on my mind. Later on, I would find that I've written poems and stories about it that I didn't even remember that I wrote about it.
Wow.
And just all these times when I, the self hatred, um, feeling down about myself, not feeling like I wanted to go out. I didn't want to talk to people. I hated boys. I got angry so quickly for any little thing. It was just like a downward spiral. I was always so angry. I hated myself. I didn't know how to talk to my sister. I didn't know how to talk to my parents. I didn't know how to talk to anybody. And I just lived inside my head, hating myself, just feeling angry with myself for what had happened. Never blaming him. I never blamed him. I
Mm-hmm.
always blame myself. Why did you let this happen? How did you let this happen? You're so stupid. How were you so dumb? Why didn't you see what was going to happen?
Mm-hmm.
That's when it started. That's when my depression started. Because I don't remember feeling that way about myself before that. I don't.
Mm-hmm. So when that started, and you started to have all this internal dialogue, and you mentioned a couple key things here. You said you didn't feel comfortable talking to adults about it,
Mm-mm.
but it was easier talking to kids your own age or friends that's close to your age.
Yeah.
And we may have someone listening that feels that same way. What comfort did you receive from the friends your own age that an adult, that you felt like an adult maybe felt or feared that an adult couldn't give you?
I I guess I just needed to release it to somebody so I felt safe in telling her, but I don't know how much comfort I got out of it.
Mm.
I really don't know. And mind you, my sister is my twin sister, and I didn't even feel comfortable talking to her about it. And
Wow.
years later, I'm not even say years later, like 3 years ago, right? This happened when I was 12 years old, and I'm 49 now, right? So about 2 years ago, we were talking about it, and my sister said, "I remember thinking, what's the big deal? So he touched you. What's the big deal?" So
Wow.
it's not like she was even able to come to me to talk to me because she knew what happened. She couldn't even have that space, that dialogue with me because she didn't
Mhm.
understand the pain that I was going through,
Mm.
right? So I think it's really interesting that even though I did find someone to talk to about it, it never relieved any pain that I was feeling. So maybe an adult would have helped me through it. What, definitely, I think an adult would have helped me through it. But the people who I chose to tell weren't able
They
to.
didn't know how to process it because they were like, okay, because they were like, okay, that happened. Who was it? The young lady that said that knew already,
Hmm. Yep.
you know.
Hmm.
Wow. Wow. And it started so young and it stayed with you and just manifested in different ways. The
Yeah.
conversation just
Yeah.
blossomed from there.
Like it took years of therapy and reflection and talking to my sister and my cousins about depression to and the blog to finally connect the dots. And like I said, I started the blog about depression about 2 years ago. So that's
Wow.
when I made the realization. I
So
always
freedom
knew,
didn't come until that full release happened.
yeah. And I always knew that the depression started around 12 years old because that's when I remember always crying, always feeling sad, always feeling depressed. But I guess it just takes years of working on yourself to really come to a realization, making those connections. And that's what happened.
You know, I wanted to save the blog to the end, but I want to talk about this now. I want to
Okay.
talk about your blog now.
Okay.
I want to ask you, in what way did your blog free you? Because I understand what you're saying because I started blogging and it freed me in so many ways.
Yes.
So, in what ways did your blog help to free you?
Writing has always been my passion, right? I long before I started blogging, I started writing a novel about a woman who suffers with depression, and I use that as my escape because I was
Mhm.
pouring all of my feelings that I had into my main character.
Okay.
But when I started, and then I started blogging about my first blog was years ago as when I wrote about being a reluctant bachelorette. I don't want to be a bachelorette anymore. I want to be married, and I wrote about that. That was fun. And then when I finally did get married, I wrote a blog about my my being married. But those didn't resonate as much with me. And then that's when I started feeling like I need to capture more of what I'm about. And so when I started writing about depression, it 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 helped me really internalize a lot of the things that I go through in therapy, but now for an audience. And so I had to really be honest with myself and really be
Mhm.
genuine with myself. If I wanted to write about this stuff, then I'm not gonna, just write it. I'm not gonna keep certain things out of it. I need to be genuine with myself in order to be authentic to my readers. And so it helped me put a lot of what I've been going through in perspective in a positive light. I want to be positive. I don't want to stay in that negative space. So it helped me think about all the things that I went through in a positive light. Why did this happen? And what lesson am I taking from this? And in doing so, that's when it opened up like forgotten memories, things that I had tucked away. It helped me come to terms with them in a positive light because I guess mentally I was ready to.
Yeah.
So it helped me
I
open
think
up.
you do have to be mentally ready to,
Mhm.
because when I started my blog and writing, and I was just writing to prepare and just write a lot of tears.
Yes.
You are writing through the tears. You know, you are writing through the tears, and I could see how your novel and your main character in your blog, like writing through the tears.
Yep. Yep. It was my form of escape, I guess. It,
Hmm.
it it was cathartic. It helped me overcome so many of the things that I've been dealing with,
Hmm.
even though I was in therapy, because I adamantly believe in therapy. I
Yeah,
really,
me
really
too.
do.
Me too.
But I also believe that there are other things that you need to do besides therapy to help yourself.
Hmm. And what are those things?
So I came across a number of different things quite by accident. Um, First of all, I'm terribly close to my sister and two of my cousins, and we used to um, have not competitions, but we used to challenge each other for exercise. We used to challenge each other by reading self-help books and discussing them, and through the exercise challenges, I started getting becoming a little bit less depressed, and I realized that
Oh,
the endorphins or whatever
yeah.
that's released when you're exercising, I realized that it was helping me mentally. And so I was just like, hey, I'm looking good, feeling good, I might as well continue this, right? And so that was one of the things. And then we used to send each other motivational videos that we found on YouTube. My screen keeps going on. And we used to send each other motivational videos, and I started listening to a lot of them, and I started ingraining my mind, like really inundating myself with all these positive messages. And then the
Put some
meditation,
positivity into your life.
yeah, the meditations we talked about. And at
Yeah.
first I used to tell them, I used to be like, you guys, meditation is not helping me at all. They were like, keep trying it. So every morning I was getting up
Mhm.
early, I was meditating, and I realized that, you know what, this is kind of helping me. But it wasn't just one of these things, it was all of them together.
Things.
And I realized that that's a lot of work for somebody be who may not know or understand meditation, or who may not want to keep listening to all this positive stuff. But that I found by accident, and it was really, really helping me. And I
So
even
your
know,
me time off strategies, you built your own arsenal of me time off
yes, that's a
strategies.
perfect word for it. Yes,
Mhm.
I really did. And it was, I need to, I can't stress this enough. It was with the help of my, what I call my sister cousins and my sister. I had that backup. You know, I had these people who were on my side, who we were all helping each other through our own stuff. And
Mhm.
I mean, Eve was made to be with Adam. We're not meant to go through this world alone. We're not meant to struggle through our bouts by ourselves. I really believe that we need each other for it, and that's what helped me through it. I had my arsenal of people. I had my arsenal of activities. Right. I had my therapist. I had my sister, my cousins. Now I have my husband. I had my arsenal of things like meditation, positive self talk, exercise, all this stuff that when you combine them all, it, it, it works. At least for me, it did. And everybody needs to find their own arsenal. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But that was what worked for me.
But the most important thing is to try to find something
Hmm.
and not wallow in it.
Yeah.
It's easy to wallow in self-pity even though it's hard.
Hmm.
Self-pity is hard,
Hmm.
sadness is hard,
Hmm.
but you can get at a place that's so dark, you can stay there,
Yeah.
you know.
And trust, you can even meet people who will go through that self-pity journey with you too, because
Mhm.
I found those people too, and we
Yeah.
weren't getting anywhere.
Yeah, it was just that a perpetual hamster wheel of the same thing every day.
Yeah.
You know, it's a conscious choice
Hmm.
to find another way.
Yeah.
It's really about choices,
But you have
you
to be
know.
ready for that choice, right?
Oh yeah, you definitely have to be ready for it. You have to be ready for the choice, whether good, bad, happy, or sad.
Yeah.
You every day we making a choice. We
Yeah.
make a choice just when you make tea or coffee in the morning.
Yeah.
Do you want honey or do you want sugar?
You know
That's
what I tell my students? I was like, brushing your teeth is a choice in the morning. And they're like, what? You gotta brush your
Mhm,
teeth. I was like, not really.
mhm.
You can go out and stink breath and all. But
Right.
yeah, all these little things are choices.
It's all choices. It's all choices. What would you say to someone who tells someone struggling with depression to just get over it?
Uh, I've um I've thought about this question, and I've answered this question many times, but it's always different. That to that person who says just get over it, you really can't convince them otherwise unless they're ready to hear otherwise, right? So, to somebody who says just get over it, I'd say something like, it's something that's ingrained within you. You can't really get over something that has stayed with you for so long. Um, I tell them that once once you're ready to get over it, you can, but it doesn't
It doesn't
leave you
happen
just like
overnight. It's
that.
forgiveness.
It's
I
really
think
forgiveness.
we hear a lot about forgiveness for
Mhm,
others, right?
mhm,
Forgive for others because it's good for you. But you have to also have self forgiveness.
mhm,
Self forgiveness is so important too, because
mhm,
when you forgive yourself, you're working on yourself. The love comes. You see the characteristics that you like. You're
mhm,
not clouded by all of that past.
mhm, mhm.
You're stepping forward, and you're with a willingness. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what therapy can do for you.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Absolutely.
that's what therapy can do for you.
Mm-hmm.
I really think that self-forgiveness is very important. I went through my self-forgiveness journey. I did it a lot in therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Did it a lot in therapy, but then I pushed it down because I was so transactional. I was like on that
Oh.
autopilot. But then when I hit that brick wall, all of it came back up. But I knew I had to take the time to really reflect and to be true to me and authentic to me in order to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
So I resonate with a lot of what you're saying
Mm-hmm.
because I had to be willing to do it,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know. And someone's going to receive this message and they're ready.
Mm-hmm.
They just wanted to hear more.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, I really understand what you're saying. You know, I really do. When did you first seek help for depression?
It was in my, I think, my mid 20s. And so, as I said, my sister, like I've been going through this, emotional roller coaster, depression since I was about 12 years old, and my sister has always known this about me, and she'd written me, like, she said she didn't know how to help me. She once, I found recently, I found a card that she had written to me, like in her early 20s, with her
Mhm,
saying, Kat, I really don't know how to help you. I just hope that you see the light or whatever. It and it it, it, it just spoke so much to how she felt so helpless. But
mhm,
then there was one day that I was like crying, and I don't think I was crying about anything in particular. I was just in a really depressive mode. And she's like, this is enough. I've had enough. And she started looking through, I think we had the yellow pages at the time. She started looking for therapists for me. She's the
mhm,
one. She found one for me, and I I went, and I started off with group therapy, and then I met with that same therapist who led the group therapy. I met with him once a week, one on one, and for a long time I stopped that therapy. Then I met with other therapists, but it was because of my sister in our mid 20s that she was the one who was like, I can't deal with this anymore. I need you to find help, and she found that therapist for me. And if it wasn't for her, I
mhm.
probably would have found therapy at some point, but not at that time. And that's when
Wow.
and when she started looking for that therapist for me, I knew that it was time. I didn't fight it. In other words, I didn't fight it. I knew
Your
that I needed
village.
this.
Your
Yeah,
village. I mean, like, you have a twin, so you guys have a connection that's just far beyond anything.
yeah,
But your village, like, she was like, I can't help you, but I'm going to find help for you,
for you.
and that's okay.
That is okay. When she started looking for there, like I said, I didn't fight it. I didn't resist it. I was like, okay, this needs to be done.
If you could speak to that person that um, feels like they have to go it alone and they've been going it alone,
Mhm.
what message would you give to that person right now?
Um, I would say find. You know what I would say? Find something that you could do, that you could pour all that frustration out into, like my writing, for instance.
Mhm.
I think any creative work, even like gardening or anything, to just get your frustration out into it. In the meantime, find somebody that you really trust, that you know has got your back. At least one person, I think. Do that for yourself, right? I think the first thing that I was able to do, the first way that I was able to start that healing process was to write it out, just, and I didn't even start off with writing about it. I think I did, like I said, like years later I found poems and stories that I've written about it that I didn't even remember. But just write, or not just write, whatever is your comfort level, whatever it is, a creative work that you could get into, because creativity is such a powerful
It
cathartic
is.
way of dealing with your issues, right? And maybe going it alone, if that's what you feel you need to do, going it alone, do it in some creative way. Painting, writing, even watching movies, writing a script, anything. But
Hmm.
in the meantime, find that one person who you know will have your back.
Yeah, creativity aligns with the virtue wisdom.
Mm,
Yeah. And it is going into that creative space. There's a lot of healing in the arts,
there's
you
so
know.
much.
Someone could walk in, and a child even having a bad day but go to music class,
Mm,
and the day is different now.
yeah.
Go to art class and this, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think art speaks to our soul in a way that we don't understand. So I think that's why it's so important to be creative.
Yeah.
Everybody is creative in some way.
Oh yes. Oh, it's a lot of talented people in this world. I say that every time I say I'm going on TikTok for 15 minutes, and 2 hours later,
Yeah.
I'm laughing and I'm like, all these talented people in the
Yes,
world.
yes, yes. That's where you find them. Yes. Yeah.
um, I have one more question. I have two. Okay.
Okay.
First, I want to ask, I'm going to end by asking where they can find your blog and find your information. But
Okay.
my first question before that is, what advice would you give your younger self to help cultivate self trust?
Um, I don't think you wrote that in these questions. That's not fair. Did you?
That is a question that I ask
Oh
everyone.
my gosh. Okay. I went through these questions yesterday and today. I was like, I'm set. I'm ready for this. But I missed that one. What advice would I give to my younger self to
Yes, to
cultivate
cultivate
self-trust?
self trust.
Um, love yourself. No, I want. I like love yourself, but again, that's something easier said than done, right?
It is easier said than done, but we have to find the means to do it.
Yeah,
We
I
have to
would.
choose.
I'd have to. I think I would have to like give her a whole speech, but I would tell her, you are enough. You
Mm,
are fine. Trust yourself. You are fine. Everything that you do is being done for a reason.
mm,
Yeah, I think that's what I would tell her.
hmm. Yeah, that 12-year-old you. If
Yeah,
you had to take her out to lunch, sit down and have a conversation with her, tell her she's fine, she's
yeah,
enough.
yeah.
You know, because we're cultivating that self trust. And I like to ask this question for a number of reasons. Number one, it really gets you to thinking about what would you say to your
Hmm.
younger self? Because
Hmm.
when I asked myself that question, I really had to think about it. Really had to think about it. But
Yeah.
the other piece too is that this is a bit of advice that we can pass on to the next generation.
Hmm. Hmm.
We can pass it on because they can hear those words of wisdom and they can carry that with them. You
Hmm.
know, I was listening to a podcast and she always asks, what would you do to cultivate self-trust? And you are enough. Every morning I tell myself I'm enough. So
Hmm.
it resonates with who it needs to resonate with.
With. Mm, I hear you. Yes,
Hmm.
that's
Hmm.
beautiful.
So I know I peeped your blog. I really liked it. So
Thank you.
let's talk about where folks can go out and read your blog because I really liked it.
Oh, thank you so much. It's on WordPress, which a lot of bloggers use.
Hmm.
So if you go onto Instagram, my Instagram handle is Cathy underscore Marie and the number one. And I have a link to my oh gosh, now I forgot what it is. But I have a link which has a number of different links that you can click on, which is my blog and some specific blogs and other podcasts that I've been featured on. So you could definitely find me there. It's my website is called cathyscross.wordpress.com. And the reason why I chose Cathy's Cross is like we all have our own cross to bear, and my cross was this depression that I'm trying to unburden myself from. So that's where it was from.
Oh my goodness. I this has been just so enlightening. I love it so much. I am definitely going to put all of your information in the show notes.
Thank
Um
you.
I for young ladies and gentlemen, for anybody listening, women of color listening, sis, you got two sis. We sitting here right here, and we're gonna pour some positivity into your life.
Yeah.
And just know that you don't have to go it alone.
No, no, no.
So, check out her blog. You know, check out her blog. I have chills right now, and I'm trying to hold it together. It's very, I get a couple podcasts where the tears are almost ready to flow. I
Yeah,
have to keep it together
yeah.
because
That's me right now. I'm about to cry.
I do believe that this is an important conversation to have. And I hope that you'll consider coming back on. I'm going to start panel discussions where I bring 3 and 4 women together and we
I
talk
love
about different
that.
things.
I
And I
love that.
really would love to have you on the panel.
I would love to be there. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh, it's been a pleasure. Me timers. Oh, me timers. Um, this is your time to be kind to your mind.
Oh, I
And
love
remember, we're rooting for you. We are rooting for you. Have a great day now.